The ash fell like dirty snow, coating the shattered remnants of what had once been a thriving city. Through the perpetual haze of pollution that blanketed the sky, the faint red glow of the consortium security drones pulsed rhythmically as they patrolled overhead. In the shadow of crumbling skyscrapers, Anya Petrova pulled her scarf tighter around her face, the fabric doing little to filter the acrid air that burned her lungs with each breath. She crouched behind a rusted-out vehicle, her mechanical arm whirring softly as she adjusted the focus on her binoculars. The convoy was right on schedule, a rare consistency in this chaotic world. 6 heavily armored trucks, flanked by enforcers on motorcycles, their augmented bodies more machine than human. The lead vehicle contained what her group desperately needed: power cells and medical supplies. Without them, the scavengers wouldn't survive another month in the maze of abandoned subway tunnels and pipes they called home. 14 enforcers, she whispered into her comm unit. Standard formation. Drone coverage looks minimal. Security seems light for such a valuable shipment. Jax's deep voice crackled through the static. The former enforcer's suspicion matched her own. The consortium never made anything easy. Maybe we got lucky for once. It was Lena who spoke now, the young hacker's optimism persistent despite everything she'd seen in her 17 years. Nobody gets lucky anymore, Anya replied, continuing to scan the convoy. Something's not. She stopped mid-sentence as the rear truck hit a pothole, causing the tarp covering its cargo to shift momentarily. In that brief instant, Anya caught a glimpse of what lay beneath. Not crates or containers, but glass cylinders. Inside each, the small silhouette of a child floated in suspension fluid. Bastards, she hissed, her mechanical fingers tightening until the binoculars creaked in protest. What is it? Marcus asked, the former doctor's voice tense. Test subjects. Children. The words felt like ash in her mouth. They're transporting them to Facility 9. The silence that followed was heavy, charged with unspoken memories. They all knew what happened at Facility 9. The screams that echoed from behind its walls, the medical waste that sometimes washed up along the riverbanks, the whispered stories of genetic experiments gone wrong. Change of plans, Anya said finally. We're hitting all the trucks. That wasn't the mission, Jax cautioned. We agreed. I don't care what we agreed. Her tone left no room for argument. We take the supplies and free the children. Anya, be reasonable, Marcus interjected. We barely have enough resources for ourselves. Where we put them? How we feed them? She closed her eyes, the phantom pain in her missing arm flaring as memories threatened to overwhelm her. A sterile room, restraints biting into flesh. Dr. Thorne's cold smile as he explained how her sacrifice would advance human evolution. The sound of bone shattering as she fought against her captors. The searing agony as they amputated without anesthesia. I don't expect you to understand, she said quietly, but I've been where those children are going. I won't let it happen again, not while I still breathe. The silence that followed told her everything she needed to know. They would follow her, not because they agreed, but because they trusted her. Because despite everything, she had never led them astray. Lena, she said, access point still where we discussed? Yes. Secondary entrance to Tunnel 5B. I've disabled the proximity alarms, but we'll have approximately 90 seconds before the system auto-resets. Jax, you still have those charges? Enough to make a statement. The gruff affirmation carried the weight of his military precision. Marcus, prep the medical bay. We'll need it. For the children or for us? He asked grimly. Anya didn't answer. They all knew the odds. 10 minutes to intercept, she said instead. Let's move. As she rose from her position, her mechanical arm caught the dull red light of the drones above, the intricate gears and circuitry momentarily gleaming through the panels she'd left exposed. It was a masterpiece of engineering, her own design, built from scavenged parts and bitter determination after her escape from the consortium. A constant reminder of what they had taken from her, and what she had built from the ashes of her former life. Tonight, that arm would help her save others from a similar fate, or she would die trying. The labyrinth of tunnels beneath Zone 7 had once been a marvel of urban transportation, an intricate network of subway lines, maintenance shafts, and utility corridors that served the megacity above. Now, with much of the surface uninhabitable, these underground passageways had become home to those who refused to submit to consortium rule: scavengers, outcasts, rebels. Anya moved through them like a ghost, each turn and junction as familiar to her as the components of her mechanical arm. Behind her, Jax followed with the silent efficiency that marked his former enforcer training, his hulking frame somehow making no sound despite the arsenal strapped to his body. Lena's slender figure darted ahead occasionally, her fingers dancing across the ancient control panels they passed, temporarily disabling security systems or rerouting power to clear their path. 5 minutes to intercept, Anya murmured into her comm unit. "Marcus, are you in position?" "Ready at extraction point B," came the doctor's terse reply. "But I still think this is suicide." "Your objection is noted," she said. "Jax, the charges?" "Placed at critical junctures. Remote detonation ready on your command." They reached a maintenance shaft that would take them directly beneath the road where the convoy would pass. The metal rungs of the ladder were slick with condensation, forcing Anya to rely heavily on her mechanical arm as they ascended. Its servos whirred softly with the strain, reminding her that it had been weeks since she'd performed proper maintenance. Another item on a never-ending list of priorities. At the top of the shaft, Lena was already hacking into a control node, her small portable computer connected to exposed wiring. 90 seconds before security protocols detect the intrusion, she warned without looking up. Convoy approaching intersection in 3, 2, 1. Above them, the rumble of heavy vehicles vibrated through the concrete. Anya nodded to Jax, who pressed a button on his remote detonator. The explosion was precisely calculated, powerful enough to rupture the road surface directly in front of the lead vehicle, but controlled to minimize collateral damage. They weren't terrorists, despite what consortium propaganda claimed. The screeching of brakes and shouts of confusion filtered down to them. Anya unholstered her weapon, a modified pulse rifle that could temporarily disable enforcer augmentations without killing the human components. "Remember," she said, meeting each of their eyes in turn, "non-lethal force when possible. These enforcers are victims too. Most of them didn't choose their enhancements." Jax's expression hardened, but he nodded. His own exit from the enforcer program had left him with enough cybernetic parts that he required regular medication to prevent rejection syndrome. Another reason they needed those medical supplies. 20 seconds, Lena announced, disconnecting her computer and drawing her own weapon, a smaller pulse pistol that looked oversized in her delicate hands. "Stay behind us," Anya told her. "Your job is to hack the containment units and get those kids out. Leave the fighting to us." With a hydraulic hiss, the maintenance hatch above them slid open. The acrid smell of burning rubber and concrete dust immediately filled the shaft. Jax went first, his broad shoulders barely fitting through the opening, providing cover fire as Anya and Lena followed. The scene above was chaos. The lead truck had plunged nose first into the crater created by their explosion. Enforcers scrambled to secure the perimeter, their augmented vision not yet adjusted to the smoke filling the air. The rear trucks were attempting to reverse, but the narrow street prevented a quick retreat. Anya fired 3 rapid bursts from her pulse rifle, watching with grim satisfaction as the nearest enforcers convulsed and dropped, their cybernetic enhancements temporarily offline. Beside her, Jax moved with deadly efficiency, each shot finding its mark with precision that spoke of years of combat training. "Lena, with me," Anya called, sprinting toward the rear trucks. "Jax, cover our approach." They weaved through the disabled vehicles, Anya's mechanical arm deflecting debris and occasionally an enforcer who got too close. Its strength far exceeded that of a natural limb, allowing her to throw a fully augmented enforcer several meters with minimal effort. They reached the rear truck just as its doors burst open, revealing not more enforcers as expected, but a team of white-coated scientists flanked by security drones. One of them, A woman with a cold, calculating gaze recognized Anya immediately. Subject A13, she stated flatly, as if reading from a specimen tag. How interesting to see you functioning after all this time. Dr. Thorne will be most intrigued. Anya's blood ran cold at the mention of the name, but she kept her weapon steady. Step aside. We're taking the children. The scientist smiled without humor. I think not. They represent far too significant an investment. Enforcers subdue the subjects. Non-lethal protocols for A13. Dr. Thorne wants her relatively intact. Before Anya could react, the security drone surged forward, firing paralytic darts that she barely managed to dodge. Jax wasn't so fortunate. One caught him in the neck, causing him to stagger. He fought against the paralytic agent, his augmented physiology giving him resistance, but his movements became visibly sluggish. Lena, get to the containers, Anya shouted, her mechanical arm swinging in a wide arc that demolished two drones in quick succession. I'll hold them off. The young hacker darted forward, sliding beneath the remaining drones to reach the back of the truck. Her fingers flew across the electronic lock of the first containment unit, bypassing security protocols with practiced ease. Anya continued to fight, but the odds were rapidly shifting. More enforcers converged on their position, these ones equipped with EMP weapons designed specifically to counter augmentations like her arm. She dodged the first blast, knowing a direct hit would render her limb useless. They're coming too fast. Jax grunted, fighting through the paralytic to provide covering fire. We need to fall back. Not without the children, Anya insisted, spinning to disable an enforcer attempting to flank them. Got one, Lena called triumphantly as the first containment pod hissed open. Inside, a young boy no more than 10 years old blinked groggily, various tubes and monitoring devices attached to his thin body. But there's a problem. They all have tracker implants. And these other pods have some kind of biometric lock I can't bypass remotely. A crackle of static interrupted their comm units, followed by Marcus's urgent voice. Multiple enforcer units converging on your position. Aerial support inbound. You've got minutes at most. As if to emphasize his warning, the distinctive whine of enforcer dropships became audible above the chaos of the ground battle. Damn it, Anya swore, making a split-second decision. Lena, grab the boy. Jax, cover our retreat. We'll come back for the others. But Lena began to protest. Now, Anya ordered, firing a sustained burst that created a momentary gap in the enforcer line. Back to the maintenance shaft. They retreated in a fighting withdrawal, Lena supporting the half-conscious child while Anya and Jax provided covering fire. They had almost reached the open maintenance hatch when a new sound cut through the battle. The rhythmic thump of military-grade combat boots on pavement. Well, a deep voice called out. The infamous scavengers. I was beginning to think you were just urban legends. Through the smoke stepped a towering figure, his enforcer augmentations more extensive than any Anya had seen before. Where most enforcers retained a mostly human appearance with strategic enhancements, this one had embraced wholesale modification. His right arm was entirely mechanical, ending in a multi-barreled weapon system instead of a hand. His left eye had been replaced with a targeting array that glowed an eerie red. The consortium insignia was branded into the flesh of his forehead. Commander Valerius, Jax said, recognition and hatred mingling in his voice. Still doing the consortium's dirty work. The commander smiled, revealing teeth filed to points, an unnecessary modification meant solely to intimidate. And you're still a traitor to your kind, 537. Or Jax now, isn't it? How quaint. While they spoke, Anya signaled silently to Lena, directing her toward the maintenance shaft with the rescued child. The young hacker understood immediately, slowly edging backward while attention remained focused on the confrontation. The only traitors are those who torture children in the name of progress. Anya spat, keeping her weapon trained on Valerius even as she noted more enforcers moving to surround them. Progress requires sacrifice, Valerius replied dismissively. Something a failed experiment like you wouldn't understand. A13. His casual use of her designation sent a surge of rage through Anya. "My name is Anya Petrova. Names are for people," Valerius said with a cruel smile. "And according to our records, your property. Expensive, malfunctioning property that Dr. Thorne is quite eager to reacquire." A sudden movement caught Anya's peripheral vision, an enforcer lunging toward Lena and the child. Without hesitation, Anya spun and fired, dropping the attacker with a precision shot. It was the distraction Valerius had been waiting for. With augmented speed, he closed the distance between them, his weapon arm shifting configuration as he moved. A concentrated EMP pulse struck Anya's mechanical arm, causing it to lock up momentarily. Pain lanced through the neural interface at her shoulder. Jax roared in fury, charging Valerius despite his compromised state. The two former colleagues collided with bone-jarring force. Augmentation against augmentation. Their battle more personal than tactical. "Lena, go," Anya shouted, fighting to reset her armed systems. "Get the child to Marcus." "I can't leave you," the young hacker protested, even as she supported the disoriented boy. "That's an order," Anya snapped, finally managing to restore partial functionality to her limb. The servos whined in protest. As she forced it to move, "We'll follow. Go." With visible reluctance, Lena disappeared down the maintenance shaft with her charge. Anya turned back to see Jax locked in brutal combat with Valerius. The two augmented warriors evenly matched despite the paralytic still affecting Jax. She raised her pulse rifle to support him, but before she could fire, an impact from behind knocked her forward. She rolled instinctively, coming up to face a female enforcer whose augmented legs had allowed her to jump the distance between buildings. "Surrender, A-13, the enforcer commanded. "Resistance will only increase your reconditioning period." "I'd rather die," Anya snarled, lunging forward. The battle became a blur of desperate combat. Anya fought with everything she had, her mechanical arm still operating at reduced capacity, but still deadly. For every enforcer she disabled, two more seemed to take their place. In her earpiece, she could hear Lena confirming she had reached Marcus with the rescued child. Across the battlefield, Jax was gradually losing ground against Valerius. The paralytic, combined with the commander's superior augmentations, gave him an increasingly decisive advantage. Anya knew they couldn't win this fight. Not against these odds, not with reinforcements still arriving. A new plan formed in her mind, desperate but potentially effective. "Jax," she called out. "Fallback Protocol 7. The big man's eyes widened in recognition, then narrowed in determination. With a last brutal attack that temporarily staggered Valerius, he disengaged and began fighting his way toward Anya. "You're not going anywhere," Valerius growled, recovering quickly. "Dr. Thorne is already en route. He's quite eager for a reunion." That name again. Anya's heart raced, not with fear but with a cold, focused rage. She had fantasized about confronting Thorne for years, imagined a dozen ways to make him pay for what he'd done to her and countless others. But not today. Today, the mission came first. "Tell him to keep waiting," she replied, backing toward the maintenance shaft as Jax reached her side. Valerius laughed, a mechanical sound process through vocal augmentations. "There's nowhere to run. Zone 7 is locked down. Every exit is covered. Every tunnel is being swept." "Who said anything about running?" Anya countered, her finger moving to a secondary trigger on her rifle. The EMP blast was localized but intense, designed to temporarily disable all augmentations within a 15-meter radius, including her own arm and parts of Jax's systems. The moment it fired, both rebels dropped down the maintenance shaft, Anya's arm hanging useless at her side, and Jax moving with difficulty as several of his enhancements went offline. They heard Valerius's rage-filled shout above them, followed by the thunder of approaching enforcers. But they were already moving through the tunnels, following a route only they knew, one that would lead them back to their hidden base. "That was too close," Jax grunted, fighting through the lingering effects of the paralytic. "We still got what we came for," Anya replied, though her voice lacked conviction. One child saved, and enough medical supplies to keep us going another month. At what cost? They know our tactics now. They'll be expecting us next time. There's always a cost, she said quietly, the weight of leadership heavy on her shoulders. The question is whether it's worth paying. As they navigated the labyrinthine tunnels in tense silence, Anya couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled into something bigger than a simple supply raid. Valerius's presence, Thorn's imminent arrival, the heavily guarded shipment of children, it all suggested a larger operation, something important enough to draw out consortium leadership. And now they had the attention of the most dangerous men in what remained of the world. The Scavengers' base was a marvel of improvisation, a former subway station converted into a self-contained community. Solar panels and wind turbines, carefully positioned in ventilation shafts that reached the surface, provided minimal power. Hydroponic gardens grew essential nutrients under artificial light. Reclaimed technology and scavenged materials had been repurposed for everyday survival. When Anya and Jax finally arrived, Marcus was waiting for them in the medical bay, a converted maintenance room with surprisingly advanced equipment, most of it stolen from consortium facilities over the years. "You're both idiots," the doctor greeted them, already preparing injections to counter Jax's paralytic. "Brilliant, brave idiots." "The boy?" Anya asked, collapsing onto an examination table as her adrenaline began to fade. "Stable. Lena's with him now. The consortium had him in an induced coma, but he's starting to come around." Marcus worked as he spoke, his movements efficient despite his obvious disapproval of their actions. Preliminary scans show genetic modifications similar to previous subjects we've encountered. Whatever they're doing to these kids, it's consistent with Project Helix. Anya closed her eyes, memories threatening to surface again. Project Helix, the same program that had cost her her arm and nearly her life. "We need to go back for the others." "Absolutely not." Marcus snapped, unusually forceful. "Zone 7 is crawling with enforcers now. Valerius himself is leading the search. It would be suicide. We can't abandon them," she insisted. "We're not," Jax interjected, wincing as Marcus extracted the paralytic dart from his neck. "But we need time to regroup, to plan. We got lucky today." "Lucky," Anya repeated incredulously. "We left 5 children behind." "And saved one," Marcus reminded her, moving to examine her mechanical arm. "Plus acquired enough medical supplies to treat our people for weeks. Sometimes you have to accept partial victories." She wanted to argue further, but exhaustion was rapidly overtaking her. Her mechanical arm hung limp at her side, the neural interface sending occasional painful feedback as Marcus connected diagnostic equipment. "The EMP did a number on your circuitry," he observed, frowning at the readings. "Several motivator relays are fried, and the neural pathways are showing significant degradation. I can repair some of it, but..." "But what?" she prompted when he trailed off. "You need a complete overhaul, Anya. The makeshift repairs we've been doing aren't enough anymore. The interface is causing increasing damage to your nervous system." It wasn't news to her. The pain had been growing worse for months, shooting agony that sometimes left her incapacitated for hours. But she'd hidden it from the others, unwilling to become a liability. "How long?" she asked quietly. "Before the damage becomes permanent?" 6 months. Maybe less. 6 months. The words hung in the air between them. "Can you fix it enough for now?" she asked finally. Marcus sighed heavily. "Yes, but we're just delaying the inevitable." "Then delay it," she said firmly. "I need to be operational." Before he could respond, Lena burst into the medical bay, her young face alight with excitement. "He's awake. The boy, his name is Eli. He was conscious enough to talk for a few minutes." Her words tumbled out in a rush. "Anya, he knows about the other children. He says they're all part of something called Genesis Protocol. And he mentioned Dr. Thorne specifically, said Thorne visits them regularly for progress evaluation." Anya sat up straighter, ignoring the pain this movement caused in her shoulder. "Did he say anything about where they were being taken?" "Not explicitly," Lena replied, her excitement dimming slightly. "But he mentioned something called the Crucible, said that's where they go when they're ready." Jax and Marcus exchanged troubled glances. The term was new to them. Anything else? Onyal Prast. Yes, actually. Lena pulled a small data drive from her pocket. While I was freeing him, I managed to copy some files from the containment unit's control system. Most of it's encrypted, but I've already cracked the first layer. It's transport manifest, supply requisitions, research notes, a goldmine of consortium operations data. For the first time since the mission began, a small flame of hope kindled in Anya's chest. Information was sometimes more valuable than supplies in their world. If they could decrypt that data, they might find weaknesses to exploit, locations to target, perhaps even a way to save the remaining children. Get to work on it immediately, she ordered, a new determination in her voice. Priority 1. Already on it, Lena assured her. But there's something else you should know. According to the dates on these files, whatever they're planning with these kids is accelerating. The Genesis protocol has entered its final phase, and Dr. Thorne has relocated permanently to Zone 7 to oversee it personally. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Thorne, here. Anya's voice was barely audible, her flesh hand unconsciously gripping her mechanical one. This changes things, Jack said gravely. If Thorne is here, security will be unprecedented. Yes, Anya agreed, a dangerous gleam entering her eyes. But also means so is our target. Anya, Marcus began cautiously, whatever you're thinking. What I'm thinking, she cut him off, is that for the first time in years, the man responsible for countless atrocities, including this, she raised her mechanical arm, is within our reach. You can't seriously be considering assassination, Marcus said, though his tone suggested he knew exactly what she was contemplating. We're resistance fighters, not murderers. Is it murder to stop a monster? She asked quietly. How many children has he experimented on? How many died screaming under his knife? How many more will suffer if we don't act? The silence that followed was heavy, with unspoken moral calculations. They had all seen the results of the consortium's experiments. The failed subjects discarded like trash, the successful ones transformed into weapons against their will. Let's focus on the intel first, Jax suggested finally, his tactical mind asserting itself. We need to know what we're dealing with before we make any decisions. Anya nodded reluctantly. It was the sensible approach, even if every fiber of her being screamed for immediate action. Agreed. Lena, how long will it take to decrypt the remaining data? A few hours for the second layer, maybe a day for complete access. The young hacker hesitated. But there's something odd about these files. Some of them are specifically flagged with your designation, A13. What? Anya's head snapped up. Show me. Before Lena could retrieve her equipment. However, the base's proximity alarms began to wail, a sound that hadn't been heard in years. Their location was supposed to be completely secure, unknown to the consortium. Impossible, Jax breathed, moving instantly to a nearby console. The security systems show multiple breaches. They're coming from all directions. Ow! Marcus demanded. Nobody followed us. We took every precaution. The answer struck Anya with sickening clarity. The boy, Eli. Check him for transmitters. Not ordinary trackers, but something integrated, something our scanners wouldn't detect. Lena's eyes widened in horror. But I scanned him. Nothing showed up. Because they wanted us to take him, Anya realized the pieces falling into place. This wasn't a random convoy we happened to intercept. It was a trap. They used the children as bait, knowing we wouldn't leave them. The implications were staggering. The consortium had predicted their actions, understood their moral code well enough to exploit it. Which meant, we have a leak, Jax concluded grimly, voicing her thoughts. Someone's been feeding them information. The accusation hung in the air, momentarily overshadowing even the immediate threat of invasion. Trust was the foundation of their resistance. Without it, they were already defeated. That's a problem for later, Anya decided, pushing herself off the examination table despite Marcus's protests. Her mechanical arm still hung uselessly, but she had fought with worse handicaps. Right now, we need to evacuate. The emergency tunnels, Lena began. are likely already compromised, Jax finished. We need to assume they know everything. Not everything, Anya countered. Section D. The old maintenance shaft behind the north wall. We've never documented it, never even spoken of it outside this room. She looked at each of them in turn. It leads to the old government bunkers. It's our only chance. What about our people? Marcus asked. The scavengers numbered nearly 30 souls. Former prisoners, escaped test subjects, disgruntled workers who had fled consortium control. Most were not fighters. Standard evacuation protocol. Anya decided. They head for the emergency tunnels in small groups. Most will get through. And us? Lena asked, her young face pale but determined. We're taking Eli and the data. We're the priority targets. If we lead the enforcers away, the others have a better chance. It was a brutal calculus, but one they had prepared for. Every member of the scavengers knew the risks, had accepted the possibility that one day they might need to sacrifice for the greater good. How much time do we have? Anya asked Jax, who was monitoring the security feeds. Minutes at most. They're being methodical, securing each section before advancing. His expression darkened. Valerius is leading them personally. Of course he was. The commander wouldn't delegate such an important operation, not with Thorn watching over his shoulder. Get Eli. Anya ordered Lena. Take only what you need for the decryption. Marcus, grab the emergency medical kit and as many of the new supplies as you can carry. Jax, weapons. I'll prep the north access. They dispersed with practiced efficiency, the alarms continuing to wail throughout the base. Through the commotion, Anya could hear the distant sounds of conflict, pulse weapons firing, enforcer command voices barking orders, the occasional scream. Their people were fighting back, buying time with their lives. She made her way to the northern section of the base, her useless mechanical arm a constant reminder of her vulnerability. The hidden maintenance shaft was concealed behind a false panel, untouched for decades. She had discovered it during their initial conversion of the subway station, kept it as an ace in the hole for precisely this scenario. As she worked one-handed to unseal the panel, footsteps approached from behind. She turned, expecting to see one of her team, but instead found Eli, the rescued boy, standing alone in the corridor. You should be with Lena, she said, instantly wary. Something about his expression wasn't right, too calm, too focused for a child who had just been through trauma. Subject, A13, he said, his voice unervingly adult. Prototype autonomous cybernetic enhancement system. Status, defective. Scheduled for decommission and analysis. He tilted his head, studying her with clinical detachment. You were the first. The flawed iteration. Ice flooded Anya's veins. Who are you? The boy's face remained eerily neutral. I am Genesis Protocol version 7.3. Dr. Thorne sends his regards. He regrets being unable to attend your recapture personally, but he will see you soon. Before Anya could react, the child's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed to the floor, convulsing violently. A high-pitched whine emanated from his small body, rapidly increasing in frequency. Bomb! Anya shouted into her comm unit, diving for cover behind a concrete pillar. The boys rigged. Get down! The explosion was precisely calibrated, powerful enough to collapse key structural supports, but not so destructive as to bury them completely. They wanted prisoners, not corpses. Dust and debris filled the air as Anya picked herself up, ears ringing from the blast. Part of the ceiling had come down, cutting off her access to the hidden maintenance shaft. Through the settling dust, she could make out multiple figures moving toward her, the distinctive red targeting lasers of enforcer weapons sweeping through the haze. Status report, she coughed into her comm unit. Is anyone there? Jax. Lena? Marcus? Here, came Jax's strained voice. With Marcus. He's injured. Can't move him. Lena. Silence. Lena. Come. Anya repeated, fear coloring her voice. Nothing but static. I've lost contact with Lena, she told Jax. Where are you? Main medical bay. Blast collapsed the corridor. We're trapped. Anya swore silently. The team was separated, cornered. The base was compromised. Lena was missing, possibly dead. It was every nightmare scenario playing out simultaneously. "Listen carefully," she said, forcing calm into her voice. "The priority is the data. If Lena has it, we have to assume she's either trying to reach the emergency exits or has been captured. Either way, I'm going after her." "That's suicide," Jax protested. "Valerius has at least 20 enforcers with him. Then I'll just have to be smarter than them." Anya's gaze fell on an emergency equipment locker that had survived the blast. Inside was a rudimentary repair kit she had assembled for field maintenance of her arm. Not enough for a complete fix, but perhaps enough to restore basic functionality. "Hold your position. Protect Marcus. I'll find Lena and the data, then come back for you." "Anya," Jax began. "That's an order," she said firmly. "We both know you can't leave Marcus in his condition, and I can move faster alone." Before he could argue further, she switched off her comm unit and moved to the emergency locker. The repair kit contained basic tools, spare circuitry, and a portable power source. Not ideal, but it would have to do. Working quickly despite the approaching enforcers, she performed a rudimentary bypass of the damaged systems in her mechanical arm. Pain lanced through her shoulder as the neural interface reactivated, but she gritted her teeth against it. The arm responded sluggishly, with only about 30% of its usual functionality, but it was better than nothing. Armed with a scavenged pulse pistol in her flesh hand and her partially functioning mechanical limb, Anya moved deeper into the damaged base, following the most likely path Lena would have taken. The young hacker knew the protocols. If separated, head for Extraction Point C, an old service tunnel that led to an abandoned water treatment plant on the edge of Zone 7.